Welcome to Tuesday, the 24th day of June, 2025. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Feel the energy of Converse County. Explore Douglas's railroad heritage, Ayers Natural Bridge, and the Jackalope legend. Glen Rock boasts scenic trails, dinosaur history, and small town charm. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, the severe weather threat today and tomorrow east of the Continental Divide is high. We'll explore that here in a moment. Cool cloud picture there from north of Lewiston, Montana. All that weather up there creating a wide variety of cloudiness here over the last couple of days. Still going to be a little on the cool side of things, especially east of the Divide, behind the weekend cold front. What we have is a weak upslope pattern. Surface winds are coming up from the southeast, east of the Continental Divide. The atmosphere is unstable as low pressure is to our west, cold air aloft is with us, and a key feature in severe weather this time of year is when you entrain dry air west of the Divide into the thunderstorms. And we have that set up today, and that drier air increases the hail risk. Unfortunately, hate to say it, with these thunderstorms. Now, one thing that we just have to monitor throughout the day is we may have some low clouds which could do what we call a cap. When you get some low stratus clouds, and we're seeing that on satellite imagery this morning, east of the Continental Divide, due to the upslope and the high humidity air, a lot of that will do sometimes is keep the air cool, keep the air from rising from thermal activity, and you're not getting that heating from the sun on the ground, and that literally puts a lid on the atmosphere, and you might not get thunderstorms to develop in those areas, those pockets of low stratus clouds. But this is what is always just really difficult, is that if those clouds burn off and the cap breaks, then all heck breaks loose, because then you have an environment where you tap into the instability and the moisture and thunderstorms blow up very quickly. But there might be a few areas east of the Divide where you're capped because of the low clouds, and you just have to watch those low clouds and see if they burn off or not. So something to just observe and watch throughout the day today. But when caps break, things get wild and real western real quickly. We also are in a similar situation for tomorrow. We do expect thunderstorm activity to take a little bit of a break Thursday and Friday. Here's a neat photo from over the weekend from the Bighorn Basin. You can see these clouds here. We've got some wave action going on, probably some Kelvin Helmholtz situations again with winds aloft coming in from the north-northwest across the Bighorn Basin. We've seen this pattern before, and that's likely what we see there. Nice shot there from Utah looking west, seeing some high and mid-level clouds. That's associated with that upper level low that is stuck back into the Great Basin. And we'll see it there. Beaver doesn't care. Beaver's just going to do what beavers do no matter what the weather's doing. Now, the satellite photos we'll show you here in a minute tell a lot about what's going on. But here's the structure on a continental scale here. We have the big hot dome of heat in the east, the heat, the humidity, and the very, very hot temperatures. Then the coolness that came in with this low, and as the models have done a very good job really over the last week or so advertising this pattern of the circulation between the two low pressure systems, bringing the subtropical air out of Mexico and just bringing that air, that Mexico, Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of California, the Central American air, all the way into the western and central United States, circulating around it. This area of low pressure hanging back here over the Great Basin just feeds disturbances and cold air aloft, and that's what's going to set up the severe weather today. Now, what I did with the satellite photo is I put in the sea surface temperature anomaly along with the clouds. So a lot of moving parts here. You can see why it's not fun to jump into the water here off the coast of Los Angeles. You can see how cool the water temperatures are compared to the Gulf of California. Boy, really warm water temperatures here. It's like getting into a bathtub. And that's helping to feed that moisture into Mexico and Central America. And here it is. You can see the moisture very well arcing around. The blue clouds are the low stratus clouds that I just talked about that make cap some thunderstorm development or may not, depending on where you are. But you're going to wake up to low clouds and fog along and east of I-25 in Wyoming, into parts of northeast Colorado, a good part of Nebraska, some pockets of stratus clouds there in South Dakota. There's the upper level low. Doesn't look like much, but this interacting with low level moisture and southeast upslope winds here, that's just a recipe for severe weather. And the water vapor loop shows the features very, very well. Now let's put it all together. This is the precipitable water here as of early this morning. Shows that arch very, very well, but it also shows the drier air that's west of the divide. We'll show this in focus in a little bit more. Now, this is a surface pressure map. Kind of looks messy. You may not really see a pattern here, but you see the lighter color. The lighter colors are where we have some areas of low pressure. So counterclockwise flow around the lows right here, drawing higher humidity air at the surface this way. So that's where your weak upslope is coming from. Now, if we look at the dew point temperature by noon today, dew point, probably the best way to measure the amount of water vapor that's in the air. When you get into the dew points that are mid-40s and higher in this part of the world, that's when you're going to generate rain-producing thunderstorms and have the risk that some are going to be strong. When you get into the 50s and 60s and out here in the 70 dew point range, okay, that's when you really need to pay attention. But look at the difference between west of the divide and east of the divide, between the green and the brown. So that drier air that is west of the divide can get pulled in by the thunderstorms that develop here, causes evaporation up high, causes the cloud to be colder, the hail environment, the hail formation environment gets much, much better. And as we go into mid to late afternoon, the moisture there gets deeper. Some of it does get a little bit west of the divide, but for the most part, you can see the blues and the darker greens there. So the thunderstorm activity is going to flare up by early to mid to late afternoon. It's going to start on the higher terrain, then move out into the plains. Now, I talked about that cap. The European model kind of shows a little bit of maybe a capping here. Not a guarantee, though, but that's kind of what it's hinting at. But the gap could break, and these thunderstorms then could come off the mountains and on into the plains. One area in particular that looks like it really might be under the bullseye is the South Platte Valley of northeast Colorado and the southwest Nebraska there in the southern panhandle. I think you're going to see a lot of storm chasers out in that area today, but all of the Colorado Front Range, all the way down into Albuquerque, Santa Fe, all of a good part of New Mexico there, as you can see, and also look at the thunderstorms getting into southeastern Arizona. So there's the Storm Prediction Center. That yellow area in particular, the darker green, is where you want to watch things. Again, this is generalized. Doesn't mean you're going to have severe weather if you're under those colors, but that's the area that is going to be most susceptible. There's the tornado risk. So there is a pretty decent tornado risk, and that is a significant hail risk, especially where you see the cross hatching there. Thunderstorms will flare up tomorrow afternoon and evening in a very similar pattern, although you might see a little bit more on the western side of Wyoming, northeastern Utah, northwest Colorado there. Then as we look at the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow, you can see the dark shading green. Now there's no yellow yet, but my guess is we'll probably have some yellow in this area when the map updates for us tomorrow morning. The day after, Thursday, there's more of a shift eastward of everything. The deeper moisture heads east and the severe weather risk shifts more to the east. You can see the arc right there, the arch in that pattern around that high. As we go forward, and let's take a look ahead. This is by Friday. By Friday, the Great Basin low weakens and kind of gets caught up back into the jet stream, but the overall pattern of the wind flow aloft is still kind of the same, albeit weaker. So as we have a little bit of a break in the weather for Thursday and Friday, there's still going to be available moisture that for the weekend, it's going to be warm, and the thunderstorm cycle is still going to be there. Now, I know the week after, late in the week, is the 4th of July. What does that look like? We'll take a look at that here in a moment. The precipitation forecast through Sunday shows the arch of strong to severe thunderstorms very well. On either side of that line, there's going to be activity. The 4th of July. Well, look at this. This is for Friday, the 4th of July. What's this? Another strong, unseasonably strong trough entering the Pacific Northwest coast. Are we going to have a do-over? Are we going to have a July 4th weekend snow event in the Northern Rockies and the Pacific Northwest? My guess is no. I don't think this system is going to be able to penetrate and come in as strongly as what happened this past weekend. But it will mean maybe a cool 4th of July for the Pacific Northwest and California. We'll just keep an eye on it. I don't think it's going to ruin the 4th of July for this part of the world here. We'll just keep an eye on it. But up here in the Pacific Northwest, it could be rather cool for the 4th. Look at these temperature anomalies. These are the temperature anomalies for the 4th of July. We'll just keep an eye on it. It's pretty far out. Nonetheless, as we get into next week, it'll be something to talk about. Have yourself a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.